All right, welcome back to another week in Niche Pursuits News. My name is Jared Bauman. Today, Spencer is out, and we are joined by Jacky Chow. Jacky, welcome.
Happy to be here. Big shoes to fill, so just glad I'm involved somehow.
Hey, we love having guests come on this when Spencer and I can't host it, and I immediately thought that you'd be a great person to have on. I don't even know if you actually know this. Your podcast interview we had with you, whatever it was, probably a year ago, it's probably one of the top 5 most listened to interviews, at least in the last couple of years. It's really popular. So you made perfect sense to come on board.
Yeah, I did notice that. I get a lot of messages from it. And that interview actually inspired me to do several other things, like be more active on Twitter, YouTube, so on and so forth. So have you guys to thank.
Well, thank you. We get access to you again today. You have a podcast as well that I listen to from time to time that's very good. So you're no secret to these podcasts here. Today we're talking about news. We do this every week. We get on and we talk about the news. We got some big news items today. How about we go ahead and dive into our first news item? And again, if you're watching on YouTube, we will share all these things with you on the screen. And if you're listening, we'll also just try to walk you through all of it. Before we jump into the podcast, I wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
In this video, I will show you how we landed a placement on BBC and dozens of links in massive regional online publications such as Wales Online, Daily Post, and many more. This PR campaign was about the easiest place to pass your driving test for the first time in the UK. This is how we've done it. We simply went to DVLA website, found the latest car driving test data by test center, and downloaded the data in a CSV format. Once we had the data, all we had to do is to look at the number of total tests per test center, then look at the number of first time passes to calculate the percentage of people who passed their test for the first time. Once we had the percentage numbers, we created a press release with our findings. Then we went to Roxhill and found journalists who talk about driving tests, and also looked for journalists who write in regional publications in the UK. In total, we have found about 1,800 journalists and sent them our press release by email. Within less than a day, our story got picked up by BBC, Cornwall Live, Wales Online, and dozens of other publications in the UK, providing our client a tsunami of backlinks perfectly relevant to the audience of the client, who is a specialist in learner driver car insurance. I hope this video is helpful and it shows you how you can also build links with freely available data from official sources.
If you want similar link building PR campaigns for your website, head to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them now. Today, I think the first topic has to be that Google Search Generative Experience now adds it while browsing and allows you, and probably more importantly, probably the bigger news, allows you to summarize or ask SGE to summarize the article that you're on. And so this is meant, I didn't say this, but this is meant basically to mimic what you can do with Bing Chat now and having that integrated into it. Let me read you exactly what they said here. Google SGE can now be used while browsing, Chrome desktop or Google app on iOS or Android. It's not automated in that humans need to request that SGE summarize the page specifically. Otherwise, it won't happen. So you kind of have to opt into it. And then in the upper right, almost like a Chrome extension, you hit the Chrome button. Hit the Google button and then say, yes, please summarize this. And then it gives you a summary. Now, Jacky, have you had a chance to play around with this at all yet?
Only briefly. And I actually think the reason why they have it like this, like you have to opt in, is probably for people. There was so much backlash on the internet with their launch of SGE. And then I think a lot of brands were claiming copyright issues, not giving consent, so on and so forth. But when people opt in, it's kind of like, hey, summarize this article for me. So it's can't say anything when it's like that.
I mean, obviously, a lot of SGE that we've been talking about has been how it's limiting our ability to get traffic from Google search, right? Because they're taking our content and they're putting it in the SGE results, so people don't have to go to our website anymore. This is living on our web page, right? So this is like people have already gotten to our web page. They're on our web page, and then they can get a summary of it. So, I mean, early days, but I think obviously this will probably reduce time on site. Do you think it'll reduce, say, ad revenue? Do you think it'll reduce affiliate revenue? Do you think it'll reduce revenue in general for people?
I think if it is the summarizer, time on site will definitely go down. I think this might affect affiliate revenue more than anything. Yeah, because it prompts people to probably just do more research on the top, I don't know, XYZ, for example, the best VPN on the list or something like that. They'll just Google NordVPN instead of clicking the link and going to NordVPN, if that makes sense. But this is just all an hypothesis on user behavior. We're not sure, and Google probably knows more of this than anyone.
I tend to agree with you. Like, it's not good for websites. And again, I guess that the legality of it makes sense. I'm not a lawyer, for the record, but I mean, there's other ways to get summaries and stuff, but it isn't taking our content as much as it is just summarizing it. I know ad-wise, in terms of ads, like, by and large, for those of us who are using like a Mediavine, Raptive, even like an Ezoic or any of these things, like most of the money you earn from ad revenue is from like top of the page, right? So it's like the ad in the header, the ad in the sidebar, the first ad in the content. That's probably where most of our ad revenue is. So yeah, I tend to agree with you. So here's what I did. I can't use SGE in screen sharing. I'm not cool like Spencer. For some reason, it doesn't work for me. But what I did is this. I took this search engine land article that we're talking about, and again, we'll kind of include a link in the show notes if you want to read more about this. But I took it and I asked Google or I asked SGE to summarize it, and then I went ahead and I also put it in a couple of other AI platforms and asked them to summarize the exact same article. So I want to share these results, and I'm curious to see kind of what you think of it here. Let's go ahead and make it larger. So what we have right here is the search engine land article. And you can see on the right here, I asked it to summarize. And the SGE summarized this article as, the article reports on new features for Google's search generative experience, including the ability to summarize web pages while browsing. It does have a little area that looks to be a source, so like a quote or a link. It says the feature is not available for paywalled content, and then it says Google is also adding definitions for certain words and using color coding to improve coding examples. So basically it gave me 3 bullet points. It's interesting. We know bullet points are great for users. It's interesting to see them utilize that. So next what I did is I went over to Cloud. And do you know how to pronounce that, by the way?
Cloud?
Is it? Okay. Man, we got a lot of pushback a couple weeks ago because I think I was saying it wrong. But I still think it's Cloud, but it's the French version. Anyways, so if you haven't played around with cloud.ai, that's CLAUDE.ai, I put it and said, please summarize this article for me. Almost the same thing. It gave me 5 bullet points back, a little bit more detailed. It went into how SGE is browsing, definition overlays, color-coded syntax. It talks about the summarizing, but it does go into a little more detail. It talks about definitions. It talks about coding updates. And then it does say at the very end, which I'm wondering if Cloud, because they're not owned by Google, chose to leave this in, and Google did. But it says these features bring SGE closer to Bing Chat's capabilities and may help readers understand content better. And then one more, I put it into ChatGPT 4, and I asked it to summarize it. And it gave me a much more in-depth summary, including the date it was published, the author, reading time, and then it gave me, how many? 5 different points with multiple bullet points underneath them. So I won't read all that. But what do you think of the SGE in practice there?
In practice, I mean, it's helpful for the user for sure. Nobody's reading the long blog posts anymore, especially not in the age of AI. And adding on to that, like I think the front page of Google is riddled with optimized content, which is probably 2 to 5K words per article. You know,
Yep.
I don't know about you. I've never read an article over 2K. I'm skimming half the time. So with that said, this is a great feature for the end user, which I guess Google's going for, and probably terrible for site owners because this is eyeballs away from the site, right? You're turning your head to the right, looking at the summary, and time away from eyeballs away from the site means less money in the advertiser's pocket, meaning less money in the site owner's pocket. So I would say not great for site owners, great for the end user. So this will probably be rolled out.
Do you here's a question that I have, like, and again, we're speculating a lot here, but do we have to continue to write, like, I've been thinking long term, like couple years down the road, are we going to still be writing 2,000-3,000 word articles, and then just knowing that they're going to get summarized and that the vast majority of users just want that summary, but we have to have it in there to hit things like the right types of keywords, the right types of sentiments, the right types of word choices for the natural languaging processor? Or do you think we kind of end up writing much shorter form content down the road because it's more of, like you said, what the user wants anyways?
Yeah, I think it'll most likely be shorter in the future. I think they'll put more trust in authority sites. We already see that on the front page of Google. We'll touch on that. Hence why the emergence of Parasite SEO. So I think they'll put less weighting on total number of words, and probably more weighting on how authoritative the site is.
Yep. So going back to a brand and links. But again, we digress. I am looking forward to some of these things we're talking about later on. You and I have a sneak peek at the agenda here. Yeah, I'll just say, I will close with this. I've used AI for a whole lot of different things, tried it out for a whole lot of different things, tried to see how I could use it for a lot of different things. Summarizing stuff is one of my favorite ways to use it. So you're right. As a user, it pains me to say, as a user, it does make a ton of sense. And as content creators, it kind of sucks. So
yeah.
Let us know in the comments if you've used it, what you think of it, and if you agree with some of our thoughts or not. We're really very much just speculating. Okay, shall we move on to topic number 2 here?
Sounds good.
All right. Next up in the news is Ahrefs went on to Reddit. Tim Sulu from Ahrefs. I don't actually know his official title. I think he's in charge of marketing over there. Pretty well known. Yeah, he's a pretty well known figure in the SEO community. He's been there for quite a while. They went to Reddit to ask for feedback. Interesting, because they've been doing that for years. And as we know, Ahrefs has been going through a ton of changes in terms of how their platform works, probably most importantly, how their subscription model works, and how the access to their new features works. I'm being as generic here as I can. And so anyways, he went to Reddit to get some feedback on this. Now, there's been a lot of frustrations about Ahrefs, and it seemed to kind of spill over here. Let me turn over to you, because you're the one who brought this news item here. I had seen it, but I'm glad we're talking about it, because Ahrefs is such a popular search or SEO tool, really. We use it every single week on the podcast to go look at sites. I use it every 10 minutes with my agency. And it needs to be talked about. We got to talk about, Ahrefs from time to time, and this is probably a pretty big news item for the week.
Yeah, I think for the record, I use Ahrefs. I've tried SEMrush in the past, always stuck to Ahrefs. But I do believe this game is for them to lose, not for them to win. And I don't think when Tim went on Reddit to ask for feedback, he was expecting to get dunked on like 100 times in an hour. It was pretty intense. And I think some of the comments are not really justified. They kind of went in pretty hard on him. And I think this this feedback session was the result of them making certain business choices throughout the last, I think, two years. They do it every 2 years, I believe. And like the friend of our friend from the pod, Patrick Stocks, who's like the nicest guy ever, who happens to jump in from time to time, giving their justifications on their changes, gets dunked on even harder. And I don't think that's justified at all. But I think if there's complaints about, for example, usage, how they charge, how they bill for usage, their crediting system, I mean, I can see the backlash from it. But I think everyone complains from a user point of view. But I think top line, when they make these changes, they're not stupid. They're like, I'm pretty sure they're a $100 million plus company. They've ran the numbers. So they've most likely calculated that the whales will always stay. And if we're able to charge them on a crediting basis, that their top line will grow. And I don't know what their cap table is like. So cap table meaning like how much venture capital they raised. But they're at the end of the day, the board, their main duty is to return money to their shareholders, right? And at the end of the day, it's not a charity. They don't owe us anything by trying to, charge us $49 a month and keep it there forever, unadjusted for inflation. So I think in their slight defense, I think people need to go easy on them because they're a business at the end of the day. And they have changes that I don't agree with, but people tend to forget that, they're a private business. They're not like SEMrush that they can just swing that public capital market money,
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm super glad. I wish you should have been in that Reddit group or that Reddit thread, because it was a lot of critique. I think you're right in separating the business decisions from some of the issues that are very real and noticeable, because they are different issues, right? Like a company choosing to raise prices, a company choosing to target a different type of the market is all part and parcel with companies as they grow. I've done the same thing at my agency over the years. We're a lot more expensive than we were when we started 4 years ago. As we've learned who we want to work with and who we want to serve and who we do best with, we've changed who we target from a customer basis. So there's nothing wrong with that inherently, and I think you summed it up really well. I think a lot of the frustrations are when that's happening, and then there's service outages, there's reduced functionality in an area that you really like or enjoy, or you're seeing something new get released, but you don't have access to it. And so it kind of becomes like a mixed bag for people. Like it's hard to separate, hey, when I log into Ahrefs and it doesn't work, that's frustrating. When they've just doubled the price and I don't understand their credit system and they don't even like me as a business anymore, now I'm really angry. So there's like a lot going on there right now.
Yeah. And I guess that's the beauty of a free market, right? You can just cancel your subscription, quit complaining, and just go to SEMrush. There are just certain functions just aren't as good. And honestly, I think SEMrush, while maybe their data has caught up in the last couple of years, their user experience is still not there. It's for me personally. I used it for a month, but I always go back to Ahrefs. So that's just the type of thing. If you're a Mac user, you're going to pay more for a Mac than a PC just because of the user experience. Well, that's how I shop, at least. So there's always going to be the people who will stay with Ahrefs. And I think people should just stop complaining. And if you want to complain, just vote with your money. Then just cancel your subscription. Stop complaining. That's it. And then they'll realize.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, it's tough because there are a lot of other providers out there. And I always wrestle because I use Ahrefs, and like you, played around with SEMrush. There's some cool things I like about SEMrush, but by and large, I prefer Ahrefs data. I prefer their filtering. I prefer their organization, and I just think I can get my job done better over there. And but I'm always wondering, like, is it because I'm used to Ahrefs? I grew up on Ahrefs. I feel like I'm indoctrinated with them that I like it better, or Is it just because it actually does work a bit better for me? The challenge I think a lot of people listening will have too is that, depending on where you are at in your journey, most people that I talk with only have enough budget earmarked for like one big SEO tool, right? So like you go to an agency, they're going to have like a subscription to SEMrush and Ahrefs and Majestic and Moz and like, they can kind of do all these things. But a lot of us just kind of side hustlers, site builders, like it's a big day when we have enough money to afford the lowest tier plan for Ahrefs. And so it's not like we can be like, well, I'll just do some Ahrefs and some SEMrush. Like you really almost have to pick at one point until you get to a pretty high level, really.
Yeah, that's true. And to that, I use probably Ahrefs for 90% of my SEO work. 90. Like on most small sites, what else do you need, right?
And you have an agency, so
Yeah,
like
it's really not that. Yeah, it's great. I think I can't really think of if I had to choose one tool, it'd still be Ahrefs. I don't think I can choose another one. I don't even think it comes close actually for me personally. I don't know. But you can get the job done with the cheaper tools out there.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to be scrappy, just buy some credits on keywords everywhere, and then you'll be right on your way. I think less competitor. What is it called? Less competitor insights, but you can find that elsewhere too.
You can find, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it reminds me, and we can close out on the topic. I got an email a couple weeks ago from Evernote, and they are doubling their yearly fee. And I was like, wow, doubling the yearly fee, that, and it gets you kind of frustrated and flustered. And then you're like, well, I've got 20,000 notes in Evernote. I use it a lot, and, I still like it enough, and it's just one of those things. It's kind of part and parcel, and just it's a good chance to reevaluate perhaps and make sure it's the right tool for you. But at some point, and a lot of people agree that it still has so much great functionality. So that's been a news item that's come up and come down over the years. So I'm glad we kind of touched on it. Let's move into the last one. Jacky, you just joined us on a little bit of a controversial week here. So. We had I guess it's news. That's probably the best way to put it. It's hard to find a way to say exactly what kind of news it is. But what I've got up in front here is a tweet from John Mueller with Google. And he basically says in this, and it's in as part of a larger thread, which we might or might not get into, but he says, and I quote, "A page doesn't have to be on a site that's related to the niche in order to be useful and helpful. Quote, you don't need to have a niche site in order to rank in Google. In fact, sometimes that's a good way not to rank." And we can get into it. This sure ruffled a ton of feathers and ended up with a lot of comments from people that we know and love, and a lot of sharing, a lot of discussion around it. I have thoughts, but let's kind of wade into this idea of, because I think this is what it's really touching on, is niche sites versus large brand sites. Topical authority, and if we get benefit from niching down or not niching down, like it really waded into a ton of topics here.
Yeah. First off, I'm not sure if John Mueller knows exactly what's going on behind the scenes of like a search, like a Google algorithm, or if he's just saying that because it's part of their playbook or what they're trying to achieve, if that makes sense. Like they want the most helpful and useful content on the front page of Google. But Jared, you and I know that's not the case. Like I would say 9 times out of 10. So with that said, we have to understand the reasoning why he said niche sites maybe aren't the best way to rank for a certain topic. Like a pet site might not be the best site to be on the front page of, best dog food. And that's their argument is for, a more authoritative site. But yeah, I think this contradicts pretty much topical authority, right?
Yep. Which they also came out a couple weeks ago saying that topical authority is and has been a thing.
Yeah, so it's quite contradicting, and I think their lack of transparency often confuses SEOs or people who own media sites. And I think at this point in time, and at our point where we're at in our career, we know to take everything Google says with a grain of salt. So with that said, I mean, I'm sure you've seen what Jamie IF said. He pretty much dunked on John Mueller.
Man, what a tweet. I wish I had that in front of me. But yeah, Jamie IF was probably the most thorough and thought out answer for sure. It was very long and very well thought out. And I mean, really dove into the topic from a niche site standpoint for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's the best way to approach this topic, but to perhaps like try to take their point of view on it. But the thing, I struggle. Maybe I'm too biased at this point, but I struggle to find a reason for Google to rank sites like Outlook India, like Forbes, like all the Parasite sites out there above someone who dedicated their life to talking about dogs. You know what I mean? I struggle. I don't know. Can you think of any arguments in their point of view? Because, I mean, we can dunk on them all we want, but I think it would be interesting to take their point of view on this argument.
From a high level, I think you're saying a lot of the same things I've always said. Like, a lot of people look at the quality rater guidelines as keys to their algorithm. And I almost look at it like, no, this is almost like the manifesto that's on the wall as you walk into the building at Google. It's what they want to be. It's not necessarily what they are, you know? It's like being married. It's like, hey, I'm trying to be this person for you, for my spouse every day, but we all know that, that never happens. Like, or only once in a while does it happen. And so this sounds a lot like that to me. This sounds a lot like a long-standing effort of Google trying to say like, hey, what we want Google to look like is that we're going to serve the best page. And it doesn't matter if you've written 20 articles on it. It doesn't matter if you have topical authority. It doesn't matter if it's the only topic. If it's the best, we'll surface it. Yet we know that the only way that Google can determine it's the best is at this point through things like links, through things like other, building topical authority through clustering, internal linking, the semantical referencing of entities throughout your website. And it works so far because links are like votes. And talking about a topic in depth, both breadth and depth, means that the algorithm can understand that. And it would be very difficult for Google to understand what a page is without having all that going for it. And it's hard to see them say this when Outlook India is ranking for so many terms, which we'll get into in the next part of our podcast here. But yeah, to me, it's a big statement of what we're trying to be versus what we really are.
Yeah, I agree.
What do we do with it, though? Do we pay attention to it or do we just ignore it? I think that's, to some degree, you read something like that, and I got a little frustrated at a lot of the commentary I saw there. And let's be clear, there was definitely, I will say that John Mueller was a little rude to people who consider themselves niche website builders. Mm-hmm. That's a bit of an aside. And so there's definitely a stereotype there. So do we ignore what he's saying here, or do we try to read in and kind of glean something from it, since we're not Outlook India, we're not Forbes, and we don't have DR80 sites at our disposal?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to his defense, I think English is his second language. I think he's Swiss, so I think he might not be rude. He might just not be...
oh, totally.
Like
I said, I felt that way.
Yeah. I definitely felt it too. I
I'm not, to your point, not even really sure that he understands what a niche website looks like today compared to the stereotype of what it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago, right? Like, there's a stereotype around it that a lot of people in SEO will toss around, and I think he was more leaning into that stereotype than he was what we actually are trying to accomplish right now, to be fair to him.
Yeah. I think, to answer your question, I think we do need to listen to that, because that is their end goal, right? So they may not be there right now, but they're aiming for that. So they'll progress, because they're a trillion-dollar company, I think. Mm-hmm. So they'll eventually get there. So maybe if we start there, work towards, maybe start working backwards, could be a good way to approach it. But I think maybe just closing out, I think taking their side of the argument with the emergence of AI, you can reach topical authority with a click of a button.
Yes,
right?
You can. That's exactly right.
So if we want to argue that, it's tough because it's getting so good right now. Perhaps going after ranking authoritative sites is the only way for them to keep the front page of Google spam free. Otherwise, people like me will just roll up hundreds of these
Right.
spammy sites, right?
To their point, they'd probably rather have a Forbes or a, SF Gate
Yeah.
up there than, who knows what you're going to crank out, right?
Yeah, then Jacky's 40th dog site,
Exactly.
I think that's the only argument I can think of.
That's a good point.
And I think, it's probably the best. This is their best, best, I don't know, path right now. So they can't. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So what can they do?
I agree 100%. You got to pay attention to this stuff because, whether or not it makes sense to us individuals, whether or not we think it all connects or not, it's where things are going that matters. And they hold the keys to the kingdom with that. So, good topics there in the news. We hit 3 really interesting topics there. So, this is normally the phase where Spencer will read out a recent comment or review. I don't have access to that. Yeah. I might have been hosting the podcast for a couple of years, but I don't even know how to log into the Niche Pursuit account. So I'm not going to do that, but I'm pretty sure Spencer's back next week. So if you do leave a comment, whether it's on Apple Podcasts or somewhere else, and leave a review, we always like to pick one to read out loud. And we appreciate the reviews. We have never really asked for them, and it's good. Speaking of algorithms, it helps. So leave us a review if you do kind of enjoy what we do here. I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Just wanted to take a short break and remind you that today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. I've got a short clip from Ferry at Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
This campaign got us big links in websites such as Lifehacker, Wales Online, Daily Record, and about 20 other news websites. Let me show you how we've done it. We knew that people will be flying a lot this summer, and we knew that journalists will be writing about this topic a lot. So, on behalf of our client, we put together a nice guide about how to fall asleep on the plane. Then we use Muckrack to find journalists who write about travel. Then we put our advice in a nice email and send the tips to the journalists. Within just a few days, the links started landing, securing our client natural placements in really big websites, just like this, and this. This is a great example about how you can leverage seasonal trends to earn links to a website. Anticipate what journalists want to write about at all times and give them the stories that they need. They will reward you with some great, juicy links. I hope this is helpful.
Are you looking for similar link building PR campaigns for your website? If so, just go to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them today. It's time now for Shiny Object Shenanigans. This is the section where we talk about shiny object projects that we have going on. And Jacky, I know you well enough to know that you probably have no shortage of shiny objects. So
I need help, man. I need to seek some, I don't know. I need to see somebody about this.
This podcast weekly hasn't been helpful for me because I've always had a few, but then I can dampen them down. But now I'm like, well, I got to have something to talk about this next week, so I should lean into it. So we're both talking a little bit. I got to go to my notes here. We're both talking a little bit about a couple different things that we have here. I'll start and just touch on a couple things that I have going on. I know people will be kind of interested in a little bit of an update. Last week I talked about a faceless YouTube channel that I had started a year ago for a website and forgotten about. Just completely forgot. Like, hadn't logged in 10 months, didn't even know what it was like. And I was reminded, and I checked, and I was about 65 subscribers away and had checked all the other boxes from being able to monetize this account. So
nice.
Yeah. And so anyways, I shared about kind of the things I was going to be doing last week. I am sad to report that I'm at 481 subscribers at time of recording. So, given that
you got the viewer hours or whatever?
Yep. It's had 3,000 watch hours over the last year or so. And what are the other qualifiers? 3 videos in the last 3 months or something. So, it got like 6,000 watch hours in the last year since I started it. But it's only at 400, and I think it was 436 or 437 subscribers. So it only gets about like 35 subscribers a month organically. So I was going to try a couple things to get new subscribers. We emailed the list we have for that website. We created a bunch of shorts and published a couple videos that we had that made sense from Amazon influencer videos we'd done. And so it did get a bunch more views. It did get almost 50 subscribers, but we're still about 19 short. So maybe next week I can report that we're monetized. It was interesting, though. One thing to share is I did a bit of a deep dive based on someone's question, because we had embedded these videos on all of our articles on this website. And I went and looked at the data from YouTube, because they will report how much they will report how many videos got viewed from embed. So assuming that nobody else embedded this, and I didn't know how to check for that, and I'm the only one who embedded it, basically about 2.7% of people that visited an article last year ended up watching a video that was embedded. I thought it was a really interesting stat. I didn't know what to expect, but it basically, and these videos are at the bottom of the blog post. And so about 3%, roughly speaking, of all page views ended up watching a video, which, given how high bounce rates are and average time on page, I think that's pretty compelling. So anyways, I don't know. Have you explored any faceless YouTube stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Haven't made good money from it. I typically try more black hat techniques, like hearing you being 19 subscribers away. I would have just bought that.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah, just do it, man.
Can you run like an ad for a subscriber campaign?
You could, or you could buy 19 subscribers for.
Buy 19 subscribers.
It'll be like 5 cents or something like that. It will be something stupid. Especially if it's like for a threshold,
yeah,
it won't hurt. It's so little.
Yeah,
and plus you're focused on views anyways, right? You don't make money from subscribers. But we've done it before. I think we did celebrity homes, did pretty well. I think it still makes like $30 a month, but can't be bothered to work on that. If that makes sense. It just doesn't make money, but I see why people make money from it. It's like not, it's a me thing. It's not a industry thing. I think it's a great niche to be in. But yeah, I think I spoke to Jake Thomas. He has a faceless YouTube video, and he says he's crushing it. And how good are your thumbnails and titles? I would just start there.
Yeah, they're not good. They were like the free Canva, like the first thing in Canva, just plug it in, and no optimization, no trying to come up with, a catchy. I think it's just the title of the like blog or the video, right? Instead of like a captivating title with, clickbait and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, try. I found that Fiverr, a $5 thumbnail, is better than me doing it myself on Canva.
Really,
so maybe check that out. Click-through rates, you should be expecting like 5 to 10%. I noticed some of my
1.2%. I checked.
Yeah. So one thing I've done is I swapped out a thumbnail before, and it just ran. It was like pumped. Yeah. So try that out.
I've been seeing a little bit on Twitter that you've been experimenting with thumbnails for some of your, you did a killer video on AI writers. Highly recommend that. And weren't you playing around with the thumbnail on that?
Yeah. The winner actually was a $5 Fiverr.
No way,
contractor.
really?
Yeah, and versus me spending like 3 hours on Canva. So it's not my thing. It's not my thing. I'll be the first to admit it.
Well, all the YouTube news of the week last week got me a little bit reinvigorated to publish some videos on my Weekend Growth YouTube channel. So I did release a Amazon Influencer Month 2 update, which I know, Jacky, you're a bit skeptical of this whole influencer thing. No, I'm kidding. I'm giving you a hard time. But you can go check that out on the Weekend Growth YouTube channel. And I'm going to be putting more time into that. So as a side hustle goes, I did a lot of Weekend Growth stuff in the first part of the year and then took a break from it. And it just kind of reminded me there's so many good things about YouTube, and I have a great potential channel there to grow, and I should focus on. So I published a video, and I recorded 2 more this week. So they'll be published over the coming weeks as well. And it's kind of, this faceless YouTube channel, like even at 500 subscribers and the number of views it gets, it's not going to make a lot of money. I think I was sharing last week. I'm hoping for like $100 a month. So that's all well and good, but it did reinvigorate me for YouTube. So onwards and upwards with that.
Yeah. I think you should focus on the weekend growth channel, man. Some of the numbers for, like, for example, the AI writer video made me so much money. So did the backlinks one. Try it out. Yeah, I think it would crush.
I think I need to put actual effort. Like a lot of what I've been doing is taking like an email that I wrote and I was like, oh, that email did really well. Let me just make a video out of it, right? And that's not really the best way to approach it, you know? And so I feel like after this week thinking more about it, like I need to actually take a little bit more of a YouTube approach to YouTube rather than a like content writing approach to YouTube.
Yeah. People love case studies. That goes bonkers. You should try it out.
What's going on in your world? Which of the many side hustles do you have going on that you want to talk about today?
Yeah, so I have two things on the list. First is Parasite SEO, because if you can't beat them, you got to join them. So I spun up a bunch of sites on Outlook India at $300 a pop, and they just went live today. And I've redirected 3 or 4 penalized domains to it, just to juice it up, and I'll report back definitely on Twitter to see what happens. And this is just a simple Amazon affiliate play. It's nothing too crazy here. So it's just like a best recliners type of article, because I figured if they can rank for best test boosters on the front page of Google, then recliners should be a walk in the park with some backlinks, right? So that was my hypothesis.
You've done a bunch.
$300.
Like you're not doing one; you're doing a bunch.
Yeah, because I mean, it's got to go big or go home. So yeah, and also on other news, I've recently got one of my parasites taken down because it was getting too much traffic. So I think the site's like no good. They took it down. It was one of my VPN affiliate sites, so I'm quite upset about that. It was on the front page, top 5 for like a best VPN keyword, and that was making a couple grand a month. So I'm pretty upset about that. But you know, we're gonna spin that up again. Try to dodge on the tech admin from now on. And yeah, these things are more of like tests to see if it'll work, and if they do work. For example, if I have a client who sells protein powder, then guess what? I'm going to go out and try to rank for it. It's going to be best protein powder. It might not be on their site, but I can show, hey, client that has been with me for 3 months, look at first place. And then they click through and it's them. Everyone's happy. They get a uplift in commissions. You just have a happy client for $300. It's a no-brainer.
Give people who don't understand the nuance of a Parasite SEO like a 30-second overview. I mean, basically the idea is you're building a site and you're a DR25, and so for competitive terms, you look at the SERPs for your competitive term, and it's dominated by high DR sites, highly authoritative sites that don't have any business ranking for it, but are ranking for it because they wrote an article on it, and they have a DR85. And so Parasite SEO is... in like 30 seconds, maybe tell us what it is.
Yeah. Just think a guest post on someone else's blog, but instead of the goal being to get backlinks, you're trying to get traffic onto that page, pushing your own offers. So, for example, I would try to, if I want to push NordVPN, I would post best VPN UK onto their site and try to rank for it. And because their site is like DR friggin' like 80 something, they have a higher chance of ranking than, Jacky's VPN.com,
DR25.
So, yeah.
DR55.
Yeah. And all I have to do is build a couple of backlinks there, and they're more resilient to dirty backlinks as well. Yes. Yep. So you
can throw all your old age domains at it.
Exactly. So we'll report back what happens, but
dying to hear how this goes. I know.
I am hopeful.
Parasite SEO has been increasing in its chatter these days, right? Like it's becoming more and more relevant as it's harder and harder to break into the top 10 with good content, right?
Yeah. And I think, we'll report back. I think people shouldn't jump on this just because it's the hype. But if people are curious, people should Google NorCal marketing and look at the columns they have. And I actually use them for keyword research now. If you Google NorCal marketing, you'll see they'll have a column in Dallas News, Miami Herald, Outlook India, all these local news sites for some reason. And they're all pushing best protein powder, best testosterone booster, all these pharma keywords.
The ones that pay
And they're
big bucks and affiliate.
and they're all interlinked too. So it's like a weird,
It's a parasite PBN.
yeah, pretty much. And they're all interlinked. And I don't know how they interlink it so nicely because I don't know which site. That means the page that went live first gets no links. I don't know, or the last one that goes live gets no links. It's interesting to look into.
Wow. Okay. I wrote it down. I'm going to go look at this.
Yeah,
myself.
yeah. You should try to get the guy from NorCal Marketing as a guest. We weren't able to, but I'm sure with your charm, you'll be able to get
Yeah.
them to spill the beans.
It's just about the lighting. That's all that it was. It's just blue lights, the blue shirt. Hopefully he
Yeah.
likes blue.
Yeah, amazing.
Well, we'll want to hear back about this. That's for sure.
Will do. And then besides that, I've been dabbling into cold outreach. So what that means is scraping emails. So in the SEO space, instead of trying to buy backlinks from these site owners, you're trying to pitch them services. But instead of site owners, I'm pitching new AI companies to sponsor a marketing letter, which is my newsletter.
It's your newsletter, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been going well. I'm day 2. I got 8 people responding, asking for pricing.
Wow.
2 meetings booked, but a lot of emails sent.
Yep.
And this is like a whole industry in itself. There's so many nuances that I didn't know about. For example, you have to warm up an email for 3 weeks before sending. You have to verify emails to make sure they don't bounce. What else?
When we've done this for clients in the past, I've also used Mechanical Turk for verifying and responding to emails, right? So you want to warm up your account. But and the concept here is like you can't just go sending thousands of emails out right away without any history. It's a lot like building a ton of backlinks to a brand new website, right? Like that's a good way to end up in the sandbox for a long time. And same stuff kind of exists when you're emailing from a domain. And so, like replies help the inbox send good signals. And so we've had people reply like Mechanical Turk. We've hired people to reply to emails we send in the first couple of weeks. Yeah.
And this is just another, I would say, marketing or sales channel for your brand. And instead of buying one impression on Twitter, you're buying one impression via these automation tools.
Yep.
But so what's more important is the direct response copywriting. So what that means is, when you get those cold emails in your inbox and you're like, that's a terrible subject line. Why did I just open this? But it's always like, quick question, Jared. But I don't know, for some reason, that gets the highest click-through rates. I've tested like 50 at this point, and that's still the highest. And gotta keep testing. But it's not so much as, I used to think cold outreach was a sales thing, but it's definitely more of like a testing thing. It feels like like a constant A/B test, which is fascinating to me. So I'm gonna definitely dive deeper into this because this is relevant in all B2B spaces right now.
It's also relevant for everybody listening. I think I posted on Twitter probably about a year ago now where I did that for one of my niche sites. And I direct outreach to companies in that niche, offering for them to purchase a banner ad or a sponsorship in our tiny little email newsletter. And I think I don't remember how many I sent, like 87 emails in one day. And I got a couple responses, and one person bought. They bought a $2,000 kind of little package there. It took like 45 minutes,
Easy.
And so even if you run like Mediavine ads, like you can still place banner ads and sell those. And, if you have an email list and it's very targeted, it's probably not the size of your marketing newsletter, but even a small but highly relevant and targeted newsletter, you can sell ad placement in that. So it's relevant even if you're not trying to grow a huge newsletter, but just trying to get some extra money for a website you already have.
Yeah, exactly. And I urge SEOs to give it a try, especially. So why not? You can use that cold email outreach skill anywhere.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point.
I think it's a good time to start that right now.
All right, well, very good. Let's move on to our final topic of the day, which is usually, depending on what we come up with, arguably Spencer and I's favorite, and that is the weird niche segment where we share one weird niche. We each bring a niche to the table. Now, weird can be defined by a number of different things. Obviously, it could just be flat out weird, which we've had a lot of them over the weeks and weeks. But weird could also just be, hey, it's earning money in a very weird way, or it's monetized, or it's growing, or it's getting traffic in a very weird way. So weird's kind of open-ended. I'll go ahead and go first. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. I'm doing much better today on the screen sharing. Normally in Spencer's absence, I kind of fall apart when we start sharing screens, but I think this is the first time it's come up today. I haven't blown it yet. So my weird niche today is thehotdog.org. And as you can imagine, it is a site dedicated entirely to hot dogs. Now, I thought this is a good site to talk about right now, given that it's summertime. And I don't eat many hot dogs. I don't really eat many hot dogs in general, but my kids do like hot dogs quite a bit in the summer. Put them on the barbecue. I mean, I am shocked that there's a website that is dedicated entirely to hot dogs. And it's not just a one-off, one-page website. There are so many articles. If you're watching on screen, I am just scrolling endlessly through hot dogs and through hot dog articles and stuff. Pop it over to Ahrefs, and it is a DR31. It's got ranks for 12,800 keywords. Estimated traffic is 22,800. If I pop over and I look, it's got 141 pages live. That's a pretty topically authoritative website on hot dogs here. And I think I'll just leave it at this. As I click into an article, I don't think that the site is monetized. I scroll through, and that might be an ad right there. No, that's a direct link to Epicurious. I'm looking. I'm scrolling through like a recipe right now, and there's no ads. I'm looking at the sidebar, and there's no ads. Let me go over to an article here. Are hot dogs gluten-free? And as I scroll down, I mean, by all accounts, they're doing a great job. They're embedding the YouTube video, and it looks like it's from their account, The Hot Dog, 424 subscribers. They're using headers and formatting, bullet points, but no ads. All I see is down the bottom right is an Amazon link to buy something that cooks 2 hot dogs and 2 buns at the same time.
Interesting.
So
I did find on the footer, it says it's owned by the Gallardi Group, which, funny enough, they own franchises of restaurants.
Do they?
Isn't that odd? Yeah, they own like the Wiener Schnitzel. They own Hamburger Stand. Crazy.
Interesting. You know, I can't tell how many times we have dug into some website here on the podcast and then gone in and seen that they're owned by like a larger company or a media company or something like that. I mean, I don't see any references to their brands here. They're doing a great job with internal linking. Let me see if maybe here's a best hot dog brands. They talk about Applegate Farms. Maybe they own some of these brands or something. But again, they don't even link to them. There's like no affiliate links here. It's so fascinating. Here's Wiener Schnitzel. And they do link to Wiener Schnitzel. Aha, Jacky, I think you figured it out. I think it's just must just be a brand play.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. The company has recently promoted its president, J.R. Gallardi, to president. Interesting. Okay, so it is like a brand play. Well, that makes a lot of sense. The Gallardi Group Incorporated. I wonder if he started this on his spare time.
Yeah, and I think this might be AI content, but
do you?
Don't quote me on this. Could be an easy pitch. You should reach out to them, their group of restaurants, and say, hey, I found your site, thehotdog.org. You should monetize better, and we'll help you do that. It should be an easy agency pitch.
It should be an agency pitch. You're right.
Gotta be always be closing.
ABC, my friend, ABC, always be closing. By the way, final comment on this one. What about a hot dog necessitates a .org? I always
Nothing.
wonder, like,
It's
I
probably
mean, I know you can
whatever's
buy
available.
anything you want, but it's just so funny. It's like, why do you think .org? You're not an organization.
Yeah, I think it was whatever that was short and sweet at the time.
Yeah, I think you're right. .com not available.
Yeah, your weird niche is very weird. Mine was more. I thought of it more like a interesting, fast-growing industry.
I like it.
So that was my take on it. So to give everyone insights on our background, my girlfriend actually works with kids with autism. So I was doing keyword research for her site, and her keyword is ABA therapy. And I found this site, Beaming Health. And so I dug a bit deeper into it. I was like, I checked the Ahrefs trends on ABA therapy. It's like exponential growth on the search volumes around autism. And I think Beaming Health stands to profit largely from this growth in people getting like confirmed that they have autism. And I wanted to look up some stats for Beaming or the autism service market, and it is approximately $7 billion annually.
Wow.
And their search volume has been growing like 50-60% year on year, like keywords such as like like autism test, et cetera, et cetera. And one fun fact that I didn't know about autism services in the US is the average person spends about $60,000 a year
Jeez, really?
on ABA therapy.
And that is
Isn't that crazy?
the average diagnosed, or is that like across all of us?
No, that's just someone who's diagnosed, because it's covered by health insurance. And then I went even deeper into this industry because of how I am. But on Twitter, there's people in the SMB space, SMB being like small to medium-sized businesses, like local businesses. And they mentioned ABA therapy clinics that do, I think, $4 to $5 million a year with 3 or 4 staff. And super high margins. They just have multiple locations around town. And all they're doing is just billing these insurance companies. So I think people, I didn't want to release this because my girlfriend's in this niche, but we're in Canada, so it's a bit different up here. But if your listeners are into directories, I think starting an ABA focused directory would be a good play right now because it's growing so quickly. So being the Yelp for, like, Beaming Health is pretty much trying to be the Yelp for everything behavioral services. But if you niche down to like ABA therapy, I think there's something there, and you will be growing into an industry that is experiencing exponential growth. And yeah, that's my weird niche. It's more like interesting to me, but that's just a fun fact that I think most people didn't know about.
This content is really well done.
Yeah.
Just looking at it from a high level, right? Like, obviously you're in the health space, and so your content has to be pretty darn good, but it checks all the boxes about, having a PhD, reviewing it. Love at the top here how it says highlights, and it that looks like the SGE summarize that we had at the very beginning of this, does it not?
Yeah, it does.
And then, obviously we've got this beautiful big infographic that is really easy to kind of engage with. Like, this is complicated stuff. I mean, your girlfriend does it for a living, so, she obviously understands it at a different level, and you probably as well, just from also being with her. But this is complicated stuff and does a really good job breaking it all down. And to your point, like, this website goes super wide in terms of all the different types of stuff it covers, and it's absolutely doing great. I looked it up. It's only like, a DR 30 something? It's doing really well. So.
Yep. Well, they raised about $2 million in venture capital end of last year, 2022, so December. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with how great the website is, because they're able to, hire doctors, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I think this is a space to watch out for.
Well, Jacky, where can people follow along with you? Sure, I know you've got an agency, you've got a podcast, you're a great follow on Twitter. You're always sharing very fascinating things like a breakdown of how much you earned from a YouTube video that I need to be doing more of, stuff like that. But yeah, where can people follow along with you?
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/indexy, INDXSY. I'm sure you'll include it in the show notes, as well as sign up for my newsletter, marketingletter.com.
Perfect.
That's the plug.
And, we're here every week, guys. So if this is your first news episode, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of it. We release these every Friday. If you want to get up to speed on the different podcast interviews we do every week and a bunch of those stuff that the Niche Pursuits email shares, I think it emails 3 times a week. And you can get signed up at nichepursuits.com/newsletter. I'm pretty sure that's the link. With that,
cool.
Thanks so much for coming, Jacky. We'll have you on again soon, and we want to hear more about some of those side hustles you're working on next time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
What a crazy campaign. How to sleep on your back. This campaign got us links in Huffington Post, Glamour magazine, Mirror, and lots of other great news publications. Let me show you how we've done it. It was so simple. Our sleep client provided us with expert commentary about how to train yourself to fall asleep on your back. They also gave advice on why it's best to sleep on your back. Once we've had this information, we went to Muckrack and searched for journalists that consistently write about sleep and well-being. We've sent these journalists the advice provided by the client, and within 1 day the links started flowing in. Glamour magazine, a DR81 website, picked it up. Huffington Post, DR88, Mirror UK, DR90. A massive avalanche of links blasted to our client's website with this simple yet effective campaign about how to sleep on your back. I hope this inspires, and I hope you'll use this technique to land massive links to your or your client's website.
Thanks for joining us today on the podcast. Just a final reminder that it was brought to you by Search Intelligence. And if you're looking for link building PR campaigns for your website, just head over to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them today. Cheers.